Thank you. Well, good, thanks. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We stand for a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion for considerations of the June 12th meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And then, and the June 30th.
Yeah, you said June 12th.
No, June 12th, I'm sorry, yep, June 30th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Want to just redo that?
Yeah.
Yep, I'll entertain a motion for June 30th also.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thanks, Sherry. Activity reports? Chief?
Sorry. As you should have a packet of the department's activity, all 44 pages of it, you'll find that there's no real spikes. What's that? I want to thank my.
It's not on.
There's no real spikes or anything that really should be noted here in the meeting, but I obviously we're open to conversations if you do see anything you do want comments on. The one question that tends to come up by some various folks in town is the parking situation and if we're in fact enforcing parking regulations. Since our last meeting with you in June, the department has issued 138 parking tickets. So just so you're aware of that. Variety of different things. No parking, travel lanes.
Move the mic closer, please.
What?
Physically move the mic closer to you.
How about now?
There you go.
That one might not be working.
Okay.
15-minute parking, double parking, 2-hour parking limits, that type of thing. So it's a variety of different things. I would like to also comment on July 4th. Again, that is something that has occurred since the last meeting. On the July 4th operations, I think the parade went very well as far as from our viewpoint goes. It appeared to be very well attended this year. The weather was phenomenal. No unusual occurrences were reported to police. I would need a meeting prior to the next parade with the American Legion, as well as perhaps the Board of Selectmen and this commission to talk about some safety issues that we've been able to observe on the floats, and especially with the movement of small children in and around vehicles that are moving in the roadway. So we'll schedule something in the off season with that and have plenty of time in advance to make whatever adjustments we need to make. Fireworks went well. Again, no unusual occurrences. We did have an additional police officer, as you recall from our last meeting. We had Officer Hubble had joined us by then, and her first day of actual being on the street was the parade. So it's nothing like going in with both feet. And she did well, and she enjoyed the experience. We also have body-worn cameras. You can see the captain to my left is wearing one as we speak. It's not on, don't worry. But they are in operation, and policy has been written and sent off. The other piece of equipment you may recall from deliberative session was the purchase of body-worn drone. I just said the body-worn cameras. The drone is in the office. We have 2 licensed pilots, one with our communications department and the other with the fire department. We've extended to the fire department to share the equipment as we can see it being used by both departments. There are 2 folks that have passed the test. We are waiting for 4 more that are in the process of doing the studying and the testing, and Rick has already volunteered to help with that, and I'm going to pull him up on that when the time comes. And that policy is currently being finished up for review by you. Next, we have good news, very good news. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mackenzie Silvera. Mackenzie, come on up. You can stand right there in front of that podium, hide behind it if you'd like. Mackenzie Silvera of Tuftonboro, I present to you as my recommendation for hire as a full-time police officer in the town of Wolfeboro. Commissioner Coop and I met with Mackenzie in the final executive interview. Mackenzie is a 2025 graduate of Bridgewater State. She has her master's degree in criminal justice with a concentration in victim and trauma studies. I would ask that Chairman Coop offer a motion to hire Ms. Silva for employment to start July 21st, 2025, with a swearing-in ceremony to be on that same date.
I will entertain such a motion.
I will make a motion, as suggested by Chief Warren, for the start date of July 21st.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Mackenzie, come on up and shake hands with your new commission.
Congratulations, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Welcome to Wolfeboro.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I believe that's all I have. That's what I have.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to make sure, I'm sure everybody knows that Mackenzie, like all our other candidates, went through a thorough hiring process. It's not easy. She did a terrific job, or she wouldn't be here. We expect great things out of her. As the chief mentioned, not only has she excelled academically, she's also quite a college athlete. And so she's extremely well-rounded, and we're happy to have you. So thank you very much.
Was there another candidate, Sean? I thought we were getting two tonight.
Just one, yeah. Yep. You'll all finish up, Chief?
I believe so.
Could you do me a favor? Could you just, I know there's been some concerns. You mentioned parking. I hear it. I know some of the selectmen hear it once in a while about the double parking of the delivery trucks on Main Street and maybe the tour buses of the situation with those taking up parking spaces. Could you just give us a brief overview on that, or how you guys approach that?
I think the approach is certainly varied depending on which officer is involved in whatever situation. And it's a case by case. We do not enforce motor vehicle law or parking violations with a black and white sense of rule. But everything we have to use, or I have to depend on the officer's discretion. Certainly there are some places in town where we bottleneck. It's going to be bottlenecked. And I'm hoping that the officers are spending more and more time on foot. According to their logs, they are. The captain and I have been down there as well. And there's a lot of education that's happening. If you notice, a lot more of the 2-hour signs have been posted by our highway department. And I think the struggle seems to be the change in the safety zones, those zones that have been put on the main street on either side of the crosswalks where they used to be parking areas. We're dealing with a lot of folks that are very upset about that and no place to park. We have been speaking with some of the retail folks and their employees about where they can park for the day without having to every 2 hours go out and move their car and jockey that around, as that will take spots away from folks that are just stopping in to do whatever retail business they want to do. The tour buses, in my observation, they've been doing what they're supposed to do. They're pulling up in front of Kate Park, letting off the folks. They're doing whatever they need to do, getting back on the bus and leaving. it's still fairly early in the summer, and we're expecting to do a little bit more of that, educating new drivers in the area. We're trying to promote the use of the trolley as much as possible, that type of thing.
Anyone have any questions?
No.
Thanks, Chief. Mark, anything? Okay. Commissioners' items, next meeting will be Thursday, August 14th at 6 p.m. here in the Great Hall. Thursday, August 14th at 6 p.m. That'll be our next public meeting. Select rep, board rep, and budget committee rep. Brian, you have anything?
There it is. Yeah, Brian DeShay, Select Board Member, Wolfeboro. So I had an issue with the tour buses, and one of the bus drivers told me for 3 or 4 years he's been dropping off at the Chamber of Commerce building and then parking in the Glendon Street lot. Now, I found it a little hard to believe when he said he'd been doing it for 3 or 4 years because I hadn't noticed it before. But I did call the bus company, talk to the bus company, they talked to that driver, and they said that he's an experienced driver and he knows that, and we should have it as public record so that the public knows, the place where the tour buses are supposed to park is at Foss Field. They have 4 dedicated spots there at Foss Field for them for those purposes. So after they drop at the Chamber or they drop off at the, by Winnipaw Station, and Winnipaw Station, Chief, you're right, is the correct place because the trolley stops at the train station and the trolley sometimes has to wait for a tour bus to move. So the buses should, and the Chamber gives the proper instructions to the bus companies, but somehow it falls out along the way. So they're supposed to drop and pick up at the, by Winnipaw Station, that's dedicated spot for drop off, and then they're supposed to park at Foss Field. So hopefully the Chamber, if we have an issue, can notify bus companies directly. So as a select board member, I don't have to. And because there was 12 spots taken up at the Glendon Street lot, and we know that we're tight on parking. The only other thing I had with parking was I've had citizens take multiple pictures and send them to me of trucks, instead of double parking like they used to, unloading in the new no parking zones and parking right across the crosswalk. So it makes it so that a citizen now has to walk around a tractor trailer to get to the crosswalk. So by removing 2 parking spots, one on each side of the crosswalk, we have created a inadvertent problem where now crosswalks are being blocked off more than when they were just being double parked. So I think that's something that the select board is going to address next Wednesday, I hope, by taking in and shrinking those spots down. We don't think that the tractor trailers will be parking there. Other than that, the 4th of July parade I thought was fantastic. The fireworks were fantastic. The police presence was amazing. And the officers were courteous, happy, smiling, engaging with the public. It's a great thing to see that kind of interaction. And other than that, that's about all I have.
Great, thanks, Brian. Budget committee rep, Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Bell, your PD liaison to the Budget Committee. So far, the Budget Committee's meetings have been procedural in nature. The next one is scheduled for the 21st of July, and that'll be kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of the various department budgets. Looking at the PD budget so far, all line items, especially the ones with real dollars associated with them, are either at or well below the percentage of expenditure to date. So as usual, you guys are keeping on top of that and certainly appreciate it. Any questions? No?
Good.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Chief, I probably should have asked, do you have anything for non-public tonight? Good news.
Good news.
Good news. Public business. Do we have anyone that wishes to address the commission tonight? You're more welcome to come up and do so. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Robert Arndt, and my wife Karen over there. We're at 40 Union Street, and I had forwarded a copy of a letter that I sent out to Mr. Cafferty, who owns Hunter's Shop and Save, several weeks ago about noise issues that we've had. We've had the house since 1996, and until about a year ago, when Hunter's had rebuilt, they had relocated the garbage can behind the facility, which was fine with us. They have frequent Monday through Friday disposal of the container, but the issue we have is they've been coming early in the morning and create a lot of noise anywhere. They first stop at Hunter's and then usually go over to the Walgreens, previously Rite Aid, and it takes anywhere from 7 to 11 minutes of continuous, not continuous, but some banging, possibly maybe things get stuck on the bottom, compacting, beeping, and we've talked to Hunter's several times. They said there's nothing we can do. It's up to them when they come. And I've spoken, and my wife and several other neighbors have spoken to Casella multiple times, and we've gotten excuses anywhere between, well, we can take care of that for you, ooh, that's a big account, we'll have to look into it, or that's a request from Hunter's. I've spoken with Hunter's management, I've spoken with Walgreens management, and they said there's nothing we can do. And so now we've been at this crossroads where it's frustrating, and particularly we own 25 School Street across the way, which we rent out to full-time residents. They've been there 10 years, and it creates a situation. Their garbage is right by their driveway, and it makes a lot of racket in the morning when they come. And I don't know where. We're just trying to have them come later so it doesn't wake up the neighborhood, or at least that section of the neighborhood.
Sure.
So I just wanted to put a face to the letter that I sent out. I did not receive any notification or any response from Hunter's from the letter, so I don't know how to proceed from here.
Okay. And have you worked with the town at all? No.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I had spoke with the Board of Select back in the fall of 2024, and they had kind of made a meeting with the management of Hunter's, because previously it wasn't just the garbage, it was some of their deliveries come early in the morning, and moving of racks and crates and stuff in the morning using a pallet mover and stuff create a lot of noise, and they've mitigated most of that. There's still some times where there's some Lay's potato chips or some bread company comes in and the representative is making a lot of noise in the box truck, but we've tried to mitigate most of that. But the Casella is the biggest thing that we cannot seem to do anything about.
And how was it left with the town? Are they still working on it, or?
No, they kind of just said, they helped us meet with the management over there, and I didn't go back to address it to them because I sent out that letter, and then I got a call from the codes officer, and he suggested that this was Hunter's responsibility to control the noise of their people who they hire, whether it be a vendor or the garbage, and he suggested that he doesn't enforce it, he just represents the code, and the police are to enforce the noise. And so I did make a call before 4th of July. 4th of July they came early, and I was like, hey, it's 4th of July, there's stuff going on. I'm not going to be complaining about every time, but I had made a call on Tuesday prior to 4th of July, it must have been July 1st, and I did not get a response when I called, left just a noise complaint to the police department. So I don't know how to proceed from here about the noise issue. And I don't really know, I've spoken with multiple people at Casella, but I never get any management to really speak to. It's always a customer service, and they always give me kind of a runaround, or we'll look into it, or we'll get them to change. That's a different department. We'll talk to them about rescheduling, and so I don't know what to do.
Rob, have you spoken to the gentleman that actually owns Hunter's, not the management team here in town?
I just sent him a letter, that letter at this point. I haven't actually spoken with Dan Cafferty at this point.
I mean, my suspicion is it's more code enforcement zoning issue than something that would fall under the department's purview. You know, when I'm thinking back during my career and handling things like this, you know, even if someone's written a noise town ordinance summons, it's still, I mean, a violation is a non-criminal offense, but it's an offense either or. There's, you know, some kind of, you know, mental state that needs to go with that they're purposely doing that or knowingly doing that to some degree. So, Chief, you have any input on that? Both under the state noise statute and also the town ordinance statute?
Well, I have several concerns, obviously. There's a couple of things happening here that I'm trying to figure out, or navigate so that they make sense. There's the one concern, and I reread your letter again to make sure I was remembering it correctly, is a concern with hunters and their whatever negotiations they have or haven't had with a subcontractor being Casella, and putting the onus on the store to manage their commercial operations. The other concern I have is by reading 105-5 sub B, it talks about unreasonable noise. Is it one or is it the other? And the reason why I say that is this isn't, in my view, reading the town ordinance, it's not designed for determining the zoning. There's no zoning here. It doesn't talk about unless you're in a commercial zone or unless you're in a residential zone or et cetera, if you understand.
Right.
So I'm trying to read this almost in a vacuum first to see if there's a problem. The inherent problem with this, as you all in this room know even better than I, maybe not Mackenzie, but you'll catch up, is that store is plunked right dab in the middle of a lot of houses.
Right.
So you're sharing this zone, as it were. They're operating their business while you're trying to enjoy your quiet solitude of your home. I think that, and this is just my thoughts based upon past practice, your conversation has got to be with the Board of Selectmen. Because at some point, talked about hours and quiet hours and the town's designated quiet hours. That is bringing in this noise ordinance again, where quiet hours are basically referred to under express prohibitions. Express prohibitions, for those of you trying to keep score here, is under C. But express prohibitions does say the following acts, the enumeration of which is not exclusive, and then goes on. So that kind of says whatever. Whatever we're going to talk about, we can include this if we make a case for it. And then talks about the hours. My suggestion to you, if this was you and me talking in the office kind of thing, would be speak to hunters, and I know you've heard that before, speak to hunters and try to come up with an agreement or understanding of what hours this was going to happen. Also based upon past experiences, some companies are lifting and dropping cans at a certain hour because they can't do it somewhere else because the town or the business has told them they can't.
Right.
So they're arranging their schedule so they hit Wolfeboro at this hour and they hit, say, Ospey at this hour and they hit Conway at this hour because they can't be in Conway at that hour because it's too early.
Right.
So my suggestion would be if you're looking for it to be at a later hour, is to have that conversation. And much like Commissioner Wood said, the owner, the guy who pays Casella to come collect the cans is the one you're going to want to talk to. Other than that, it goes back to, is this a general prohibition of the sound? That has implications that are amazingly large. The way it's written now could be any noise that anybody finds unreasonable, and you can see where that could go right off the tracks. If you would like me to accompany you to that conversation, I'd be happy to do that. Certainly I couldn't really force them to do anything, but as a witness to you saying what you say, or to try to come up with a better arrangement. And I know Mr. Duche is helpful as that is also the case. So if that's something you want to do that kind of gets us by this, I'll be certainly happy to do that as well.
Okay,
Does that help at all?
a little bit. There's one other question. So a couple weeks ago, we had them, they were putting in a new refrigeration freezer system. And we had to call, because it was like, a group showed up like 11 at night, hammering, had plywood, doing all kinds of stuff. I guess I thought they were just going to work overnight doing it. I mean, we certainly called the department, and the department came over and told them to cease
Yeah, and again,
operations. It took them a while to cease because they were allowed to, tighten things up. It might have been going to rain or something, but
Right.
so is that the time to call for something? But like how do you when a sound happens, like
You have the capability of knowing what has happened, not what might happen.
sure,
I would bring those concerns to the town with regard to your zones are all touching, and they're overlapping each other because sound won't go and then stop, obviously.
right,
So it will flow into residential areas. I would have that conversation with the board, explain to them, and I know you've probably been down there, done that, but explain to them what that means. I could certainly help that conversation, say, well, the other alternative is this, if we were going to look at the ordinance as it's written
right.
and enforce it word for word.
And I'm just confused with the zone. If the noise doesn't consider zoning an issue, then why would the zone matter?
Correct. I don't see any mention of that.
And, certainly I'm not the only one that I hear them. Once I wake up, I hear them creeping around town to Bradley's, to, I don't know where, the child advocacy thing. I just noticed a Casella behind there. I didn't know they were there, but I was wondering where they went next. They're circling around town, and I can understand they want to get out early and before things get busy, but
Certainly.
when it gets that busy. So are you suggesting that only the select board can enforce the code,
I'm
or?
suggesting that, but I'm suggesting that would be a place for you to start.
I started there, but
I think there perhaps is maybe ZBA, but definitely the code enforcement.
because he suggested that he doesn't enforce, he only, he went over there and spoke with the management, but he said I'd call the police if you have noise, so he might have it wrong, I guess.
I know we have a new code enforcement officer. I don't know if he's actually started yet or not.
I think he has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke with him 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
We can certainly have a conversation as well about how do you want to proceed with this? Because as I've told you, with the zones touching each other, this is not the one of one. This will continue on. And
Yeah.
I want to make sure we have the same thing moving forward and we're not going in different directions.
okay,
So I will communicate with the code enforcement officer, and
okay,
either he or I will get back to you and tell you what we find out.
okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for me, or?
I don't, any questions?
I think I'm good now.
Okay, I have one more question. So if I have any noise, do not call the police, or like just weird noises that come up, like, I'm not going to call in Casella because I guess we'll work on this, but if something just comes up and, do I call the department about a noise complaint, or?
If you're being disturbed,
Okay.
if the sounds are disturbing you and your peace, call the police.
Okay,
Because as the ordinance reads, it's an ordinance,
okay,
and the officer will take whatever appropriate steps are necessary at that time.
all right. Thank you.
And but I agree. I think for a long-term solution, I agree with the chief.
Right,
Selectmen, code enforcement is the way to go. I mean, if you look at zoning, there's all kinds of rules there that the selectmen can establish through code enforcement, right, at the town level. So to me, that is another one, that if need be. In different subject matters, there isn't acceptable hours of operation. So I don't see why that, can't be looked into also, and what's reasonable with that. And my suspicion is the owner of the store, I've met him several times over the years, he's really reasonable. I'd be shocked if he wouldn't at least entertain this. He seems like that type of person. And he's always seemed to be willing to work, with folks. So that's kind of what I would expect. I would be surprised if he just said, I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
And I think that's good advice from the chief, just, Steve, going above management right to him and see if that's something that, he could help address.
So is it your interpretation that the owner of the property would be responsible for someone he hires, or is like Casella responsible for the noise they make?
It'd be probably a combination. I mean, the owner's not the one there, doing that. It's Casella. I mean, that's in the end. But I think the owner obviously would have some control, right?
Yeah.
To say, well, this is, I'd rather have this. It's creating a problem. So, you come at 7. Doesn't seem to me to be a huge problem to solve.
Yeah.
But I
No.
think if you have, Brian's here, so he's listening to what we're saying. I'm sure, and I know he's up to date on this. We spoke on it before recently, and so I'm sure, through those channels with the chief's help, he could spearhead that conversation and see if we can get that
Well,
going.
but there are other members of neighborhood that are that they voice.
Yes, other neighbors, yes.
Okay. That might be to your advantage too, to try to get some of them to join
Yeah.
you in your
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. More,
strength in numbers.
yes. All right, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now,
We're a Dillon rule state, and that means we're allowed to do what the state gives us permission to. The town works the same way with our zoning. The operation and the use of construction vehicles, including bulldozers, graders, dump trucks, backhoes, earth move, you get the idea. Power tools, chainsaws, balers, tractors, this is all not permitted, but there's nothing in there that says dumpster trucks. So that's not in there. But there is a section, and I'm going to talk to the board about it in the next meeting. There is a section that says any other noise resulting from activities of a temporary duration permitted by law, that's a dumpster truck, and for which a license or permit thereto has been granted by the town. So looking at this, I'm thinking that maybe this is a thing where trucks that are emptying garbage have to get a permit from the town to do such, so Casella would have to get a permit, and our permit could then have stipulations on when they're allowed to dump in town and not in what location. And the problem that the Arndts didn't address is that when we had the fire and then 2 buildings were removed after the rebuild was done, those 2 buildings were actually a buffer for the sound. And with that buffer gone, now the neighborhood is wide open to anything that happens at that building. So that's an issue that happened just out of, coincidence. So, but it is something that I will bring up again with the board because it's not their fault that the noise is happening. It's not really Hunter's fault that the 2 buildings are now missing and the buffer is gone, but we got to try and figure out something.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly my point. If you read, while Rob was speaking, I was looking at the same town ordinance, Brian, and I agree. It addresses everything but, pretty much, at the town ordinance level. So it seems to me, we just got to look into it, just dive into it a little deeper and see if that's something that can be addressed. That would be the place to put it, correct, Chief? Versus anything else, right within that town ordinance. So I think it's something that could probably be accomplished. Anything else on that matter? Anybody? Any other public business? Anyone else? Bernie, come on, Bernie. I think that's it. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So noted. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.